So Venezuela is effectively under a no-fly zone, and what that means is that aircraft are actively avoiding the space over Venezuela. And the reason why is that Trump has been making a lot of threats and accusations to Venezuela, saying that Venezuela is is involved with human trafficking and drug trafficking, and it's a major problem. They've been targeting boats leaving Venezuela, saying that they are trafficking drugs. Um, so, whether that is or true or not, there's a few things that we need to consider here. There is a geopolitical reason for the Trump administration to do what they're doing, but we also need to exercise a lot of caution here. And that has to do with the nature of the situation politically and geographically with Venezuela. So Venezuela is within the American orbit geopolitically. It's on the southern end. So if you look at the Western Hemisphere, you have North America, you have Central America and the Caribbean, and you got the northern part of South America. And what separates the northern part of South America with the rest of South America is you have the Amazon rainforest, which there's not a lot of infrastructure that crosses that. Pretty much, if you want to get from, say, Sao Paulo, Brazil, to Caracas, you have to fly there, or you can sail there, all around the Horn of Brazil and over. So geopolitically, if you look at the space, if you look at populations and economic activity and how passable terrain is, you would put the sphere of American influence right about where the Amazon River is. So the northern part of South America is something called the Monroe Doctrine, like the American sphere of influence. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother discussion. So Venezuela is a location that, like I said, is in that American sphere that foreign powers could potentially set up base there and threaten the United States with, say, missiles like intercontinental ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles. And to some degree, that's happened. You have the Chinese and Russians that are there. They probably have military advisors there as well. And, from a political standpoint, it's a problem. And the Trump administration is, ramping up this rhetoric to put pressure on the regime. What exactly is going on behind the scenes, we don't know for sure. My guess is that he wants the foreign forces out of that area, and he probably wants to have elections. He probably wants Maduro out of power. And that's probably not happening on Maduro's side of things. And there's a reason why that is, and I'll get to that in a minute. So, the Trump administration is looking at this. Now, whether or not there actually is a high degree of human trafficking and drug trafficking is kind of besides the point. It's debatable. Some people say there is. Some people say there certainly isn't. Like I said, this has to do with the American sphere of influence. But it looks like war might very well be inevitable here. With the no-fly zone, the reason why something like that would happen is if they're planning on flying a bunch of military jets in that area and they don't want civilian air traffic to get in the way. I have a map, the article, which I'll link in the description below, where it actually shows air traffic going around the country of Venezuela. And if I had somebody in the Trump administration's ear, I would advise them to exercise extreme caution here. Venezuela, it's a large country, and there's a big part of the country that's either jungle or mountains. And it's very impassable. There's a lot of opportunity for guerrilla warfare. But probably the biggest red flag here is that geographically there is, I think, only two ways to get into Caracas. Caracas is on the south side of a mountain range, and there is a tunnel that goes to the coast where there's a port there. And it would be very easy, militarily speaking, very easy to say if ground forces were to come through this, and maybe there's other, one of two passageways, to go through these two passageways, and for these passageways to get closed off, and our forces would be trapped there. It would be a very dangerous situation, and something like this might give a country, say like China, leverage, because the Chinese I'm assuming, are probably advising the Venezuelans about how to do this. It would be very easy for the guerrilla forces or military in Venezuela to trap the U.S. forces in this way. Also, there are elements that do not like the Trump administration. There's elements of the CIA, for example, that could very easily gunk things up there and make things go very wrong. It would be a very bad PR for the Trump administration and the United States if there's a disaster in Venezuela. And it would be very easy to do, given the geography, given the population, given the other vectors. You have guerrillas in Colombia that could cross over. I mean, this is jungle, and the borders are pretty porous there. It would actually not be hard to, I should say, make things very, very difficult for any U.S. asset to try to operate in Venezuela. But given the no-fly zone and given the rhetoric, it looks like war might very well happen very soon. And I would advise the Trump administration to exercise extreme caution in this situation. It's not funny. This could be very serious. Not to mention you can have a bunch of refugees because of this as well. But yeah, Venezuela strategically is very important to the United States. It's also potentially very dangerous for the United States as well. So like I said, I'll link the article in the description below. You'll see the air traffic going around Venezuela. And, hopefully this could be solved by some other means. But if war is going to happen, then potentially it's actually very dangerous to have ground forces.